Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillah, we meet again to continue with our study of the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Let's start off the intentions for seeking knowledge and teaching. I intend to seek knowledge and to teach to benefit myself and to benefit others, to remind myself and to remind others, to profit myself and to profit others, to urge adherence to the book of Allah and the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, to invite to guidance and to guide to that which is good, seeking the face of Allah, His pleasure, His closeness, reward, subhanahu wa ta'ala. Let's continue on with the Fatiha. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. Maliki yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغلوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. I continue the dua. اللهم نور بالقرآن بصري واشرح به صدري وأطلق به لساني واستعمل به بدني وقوي به جناني وأسرع به فهمي بحولك وقوتك فإنه لا حول ولا قوة إلا بك يا أرحم الراحمين والصلاة على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين بفضل سبحانك ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. Alhamdulillah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani. We continue with our surah Taubah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. We did verses 34 to 36. Allah tells the believers that the scholars and monks eat the property of people unlawfully. They turn people from Allah's way. So they are monks and they are scholars, but somehow they have not been able to pass the teaching, to disseminate the teaching of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, even not able to practice the teaching themselves. And because of that, and they even find ways and means to bring people away from the religion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Those who hoard wealth and don't spend it in Allah's way will face a painful punishment. So Allah reminds the scholars and monks, who keep money and doesn't want to spend in Allah's way, they will face a painful punishment. We did have a discussion on the kind of money that is to be hoarded. The day they are in hellfire, their foreheads, sides, and backs will be branded with it. So this is how the money that is stored away will be used to heat up their forehead, sides, and to put marks on their forehead, sides, and backs. They wanted to taste what they hoarded. So this is what they did. They kept all these things. These things in the next world will be used, right, to torture them and to punish them. Number of months with Allah is 12. This is decreed since the day He created the heavens and the earth. Of these, 4 are sacred. We went through the 12 months. It's the right of religion, so we must not be unjust to ourselves in them. So this is our understanding of the right religion, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us 12 months, and He has made 4 of the months sacred. So we should not do anything wrong in the sacred months that Allah has ordained. We must fight the polytheists collectively as they fight us collectively. We must know that Allah is with those who guard. So here Allah reminds us to fight them. When they fight us, especially in the month of haram, if they start to fight us, we should defend ourselves. Despite the fact that it's haram to fight, but because they started it, we cannot just keep quiet and allow them to injure or harm us in any way. So you must know that Allah is with those who guard. Allah loves those who are always on guard in being obedient slaves of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. All right, let's continue. Innaman nasi'u ziyadatum fil kufr. Surely that, right, the postponing, right, this is called the postponing, nasi'u, ziyada is increase, so it's an increase, much increase here, All right, fil kufr, in the disbelief. Yudillu, it causes to stray, right? Causes to stray. The dalla, this is fi'il mudari and rafa state. The you, ya, yudallu, sorry, not yudillu. Yudallu causes to stray. Bihi, by it. Alladhina, those kafaru who disbelieved. All right, so innaman nasi'u ziyadatun fil kufri yudallu bihi alladhina kafaru. Yuhillunahu, they made it lawful. Yuhillunahu, word halal is here, the word halala is here. So yuhillun, the day is the ya and the waw. This is fi'il mudari in its rafa state. Who is it? Aman, a year. So the year is in nasab because the year is being made lawful. Wa yuharrimunahu, again the word haram is here. Haram is forbidden. Wa is and yuharrimuna, they made it forbidden. Who is it? Aman, a year. Liyuwati'u, so wata'a is to change, so that they change. So you can see the you and the waw alif is a they. This is in its nasab state because li is a huruf nasab. Liyuwati'u, so they adjust, they THDY here. Iddah, the number. Ma, that. Haramallahu, made haram, made forbidden. This is harama, is fi'il madi, right? And that is Allah is the one that made it forbidden. Haramallahu. Yuhillunahu aman wa yuharrimunahu aman liyuwati'u iddata ma haramallah. Change a little bit here, mistake in spelling. Fa yuhillu, fa is then, yuhillu, they make halal. And it's a halala is there, they make halal again. Fa yuhillu, then they make halal. This is in a sub state. Ma, what? Haram Allah. What? Made haram Allah. So Allah is the one who made haram. So harama is fi'il madi, right? And that is the Allah is the actor. Allahu. Haram Allahu. Zuyina, made beautiful. Zain, Zaina, all beautiful. Zuyina, beautified. Lahum, for them. Su'ul a'malihim. Su is evil. A'mali, you can say an off structure here. Beautified for them. Su'ul. So actually here, the su'u is not being beautified, right? The su'ul a'mal, because this is rafa. So the evil of their deeds actually make it beautiful for them. So the evil of the deeds here is the rafa, is the subject here, right? For them is specified here. For them is it's being brought forward to emphasize for them there. All right, so that's Zuyina, we can see is a passive, made beautiful, right? The evil of their deeds made beautiful for them. The evil of their deeds made beautiful for them. All right, Zuyina, that's a fact. Zaina is the root word. فَيُهِلُّ مَا حَرَّمَ اللَّهُ زُيِّنَ لَهُمْ سُوءُ أَعْمَالِهِمْ Wallahu, and Allah, La Yahdi, not He guides, Al-Qawm Al-Kafirin, the disbelieving people. The Qawm is people, Kafirin, disbelieving. The postponement of a sacred month is indeed an addition to disbelief. Thereby the disbelievers are led astray, for they make it lawful 1 year and forbid it another year, in order to adjust the number of months forbidden by Allah and make such forbidden ones lawful. The evil of their deeds is made fair seeming to them, and Allah guides not the people who disbelieve. This is passive. So this one could be the night fire is not, is the one that is made beautiful the evil of their deeds for them. All right, so this is not the subject here. All right, sorry about that. Innaman nasi'u ziyadatun fil kufr. Innama nasi'u ziyadatul fil kufr. So Allah says, surely that the postponement is an increase in the disbelief. The Jews and Christians have arranged a calendar such that Passover and Easter fall in April, which means they are not following the actual lunar calendar. And we are aware that they actually use the solar calendar, and somehow, although the initially the Christians and the Jews, I mean the Bani Israel, right, they keep to the months stipulated by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's a 12 months that we have now, as mentioned by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the previous verse, that this month has always been there since the time Allah created the heavens and the earth. So it's not created by man, it's not just a Muslim calendar, but it was already there during the Christians and the Jews, during the Bani Israel time. How do we know? We are aware of this because we have 10th of Muharram, right? And then the 10th of Muharram, many events occur on the 10th of Muharram. And many of the events are events of prophets that are way before Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So that confirms that this month has always been there since the time of Nabi Adam alayhi salam, even before, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned that these months were created together with the creation of the heavens and the earth. The Arabs had done the same thing. They used to add one extra month, kabisa, every 2 or 3 years, so that there are 3 extra months every 8 years. And Hajj continues to fall in the same season, as mentioned in the previous verse, or in the last lesson, that the beauty of the lunar calendar is that it shifts through the year. It is not the same time of the year as it means like, you know, as the sun goes round as the earth goes round the sun, you've got various seasons coming in because of the revolution of the earth around the sun. But this and so our Ramadan doesn't only fall on the hot season. Sometimes we've got it Ramadan in winter, sometimes it's in other months. And so we actually are given the opportunity to do ibadah in the different months or different seasons, and we understand things and we experience things differently, right? Having Ramadan in summer could be very trying because in some countries it might be about 10 up to 15 hours of fast, you know, and Maghrib and Isha, and then Isha and Subuh is so close, and they are doing the Taraweeh. All these are great challenges, but in winter it's much shorter, right? So, however, the Arabs do not like that. They actually add months every 2 years or 3 years, so that they have extra months. So the Hajj just falls on the same season that they want it to fall. Likewise, we have in Singapore here, we have the Chinese also, they have a lunar calendar, but somehow they would actually add a month to some years, and they have this ghost month where they had 2 ghost months in a year or something like that. I'm not sure why they choose a ghost month, but basically that's it. So that their new year is always somewhere around January or February. All right, so this is the way the people actually manipulate with the months that Allah has ordained, so that they have their own reasons for doing it. Basically, they want certain events to occur on a certain month, so they need to do that. This calendar manipulation was called nasi. So we have that innama nasi'u. So that's the word nasi, this calendar manipulation. And it is an increase in kufur because they are disbelieving in the rulings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is why they have come up with this postponement of months. This manipulation defeated the purpose for which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had prescribed the dates by lunar calendar. So we explained that in the previous lesson also, that the beauty of the lunar calendar, and they are doing it changing of the months, adding extra months and things have disturbed, right? And they defeated the purpose Allah had for the lunar calendar. Yudallu caused to go astray bihi by it alladhina kafaru. So those who disbelieve were caused to go astray by it. So by doing this, by manipulating the months of the months of the year, right? They caused themselves. They were brought astray from the path of Allah Subhanahu wa Taala. The reason of this meaning is that besides their disbelief and creedal infidelity, by ignoring this commandment, they also committed practical infidelity. And by means of this action, the faithless persons might incur a greater aberration. So what it means here is that not only that they disbelieve in Allah Subhanahu wa Taala, they disbelieve in the oneness of Allah Subhanahu wa Taala. The aqidah is wrong. Not only is their aqidah wrong, but when they ignore the command of Allah Subhanahu wa Taala of having 12 months, and in 12 months there are 4 haram months, they also committed practical infidelity, which means that they even disobey. They went against the laws that are made on them, right? That they know it is wrong, and that is so they continue to be going astray, further astray. Yuhillunahu amu wa yuharrimunahu aman. So they make halal a year, right? One of it they make halal, and another year they would make it haram. So they change about the months. So that means you don't really know when the months were. That is why we mentioned in the previous surah that the year Rasulullah SAW had the Hajj, right? Is the exact Hajj month, right? Which means it was along the way they have actually shifted the months so much so that the Hajj was not in Dhul Hijjah, right? But Allah has made it in such a way, or Allah has designed it in such a way that the month, the year that Rasulullah went for Hajj, the farewell pilgrimage, falls exactly in the month of Zulhijjah, despite the fact that they had done their manipulations. All right. So they make halal a year and they make haram a year. They consider 1 month in a year lawful. Another year, they forbid the same month. Right. So 1 month in a year, this month, maybe they say Muharram is okay this year, next year cannot. They did so in order that, as they imagined, they adapted it with the months Allah has assigned. So they really believe that they are doing right by adapting to what Allah has assigned, right? By changing here and there, they felt that it's okay for them to do that. لِيُوَاطِئُوا عِدَّةَ مَا حَرَّمَ اللَّهُ, so that they can change the number, they can alter the number which what Allah has made haram. That is, when they omitted 1 month of the sacred months, they substitute another month in its place so that the figure 4 became full. So they did this manipulation, believing that they remove some like, for example, this year maybe have 2 Safar, all right, and next year, and there's no Muharram this year. Next year they will put it back the Muharram and things like that. So this is what they do. But by this ridiculous and hideous action of theirs, they utterly wasted the philosophy of the prohibition of sacred months and toyed with the ordinance of Allah for their low desire. Strange, they were very happy and pleased with their own actions. So that's the reality of them. They felt that they had done good by doing this manipulation, by removing some months, by adding some months, and they felt happy with it, with what they have done. فَيُهِلُّ مَا حَرَّمَ اللَّهُ, then they make halal what Allah made haram. The pagan Arabs practiced nasi in 2 ways. Whenever it suited them, they would declare a prohibited month to be an ordinary month in which fighting, robbery, and murder in retaliation were lawful for them. So they just up to them, basically. When they feel that this month should be changed to a halal month, then they change it to a halal month. They substitute another month with a haram month, just to make it 4, right? Not adhering to the real 4 months that's haram, which is Zulqa'dah, Zulqa'dah, Zulhijjah, and Muharram. And of course, Rajab isolated, as mentioned in the previous lesson, that Rajab was made isolated. That is the month of Umrah for the people of the Arabian Peninsula. And so it is not together with the 3 months. The 3 months are the months of Hajj, right? And then before and after Hajj. Then the other one is an isolated month of Muharram. Then they would declare an ordinary month to be a prohibited month instead of this month in order to make up for the deficiency caused in the number of the prohibited months. So the other way of Nasi, so that was it. They changed about the months. The other way of Nasi was the addition of a month in order to harmonize the lunar with the solar year, so that the Hajj should always fall in the same season and they should be saved from the bother and inconvenience experienced by its observance according to the lunar new year. So as mentioned, they didn't want Hajj to move away from a certain month, right? A certain season. Maybe they like it. They like Hajj to be in spring, so it's not too hot, and it's not. And the times are good. It's not too long, the hours, and not too short, the daylight hours. So they just want it to be there. But if they are to follow the lunar calendar, they know they have to shift the months, as mentioned. It will go right throughout the year, and you will have Hajj during summer, Hajj during winter, Hajj during autumn, and to them it creates a lot of inconvenience. So they do this. They just add a month so that as mentioned, quite a number of communities do that to harmonize the lunar and the solar year. In this way, Hajj was observed for 36 years on dates other than the actual dates. As we mentioned last lesson, also that about 33 to 34 years, this is 11 days, maybe 10, around that. So when it comes back, right, then it comes back. So Hajj actually was observed on non-Zulhijjah days because they have shifted the months about. Then in the 37th year, it was again observed on the 9th and 10th of Zulhijjah, as they should have actually fallen according to the lunar calendar. So it comes back. As we know, it takes about 34 years, 35 years for the same month to come back to us. To the same timing. It so happened that on the occasion when Rasulullah performed Hajjatul Wida, these days by rotation coincided with the actual days of Hajj according to the lunar calendar. Of course, we would not use the word "it so happened" as if by chance, by luck. We would want to believe that Allah has made it such so that with that the actual date of Zulhijjah falling on the day of the farewell pilgrimage, then Rasulullah will just stop this practice of changing months. And so the Zulhijjah is fixed on the Zulhijjah. So this is of Allah's powers and mercies and Allah's wisdom and knowledge. So he declared during the course of his historic address at Arafat, this year the days of Hajj have again occurred exactly at their natural and proper time after a long period of speculation. Accordingly, since the last Hajj after Hijrah 9, it is being observed up to this day according to the correct dates of the lunar year. So that is it. Right, Rasulullah did his Hajj 9 years after he left Mecca, and that was the correct day of 10th of Zulhijjah. And from that day on, we keep on to that practice of having Hajj on the 9th and 10th of Zulhijjah. By making Nasi unlawful and forbidding it, the law declared that the two objects for which it was practiced were also sinful. First, they not only made lawful what Allah had made unlawful, but also tried to practice deception on Allah by seeming observance of the law. So this is the mischief making, right? Just like the Jews of by the sea and the fishing people by the sea who were not supposed to work on Saturday, but they devise some method, some way to catch the fish on Saturday while not doing work on Saturday. And that's mischief making because they are, that's why I suppose, most probably, they are changed to monkeys. So here also, they somehow make themselves believe that they are doing the right thing by changing the months and deceiving themselves. Of course, but they deceive. To them, they have got away with that ruling of Allah Subhanahu wa Taala. As regards the second objective of making the season of Hajj fixed permanently according to the solar calendar, this too was in fact the worst kind of rebellion against the divine law, although it appeared to be a harmless thing done for public good. You can see this, and this is people say, oh, it's just for what ease, we should have Ramadan always in March and not any other months, because it's going to be very difficult for us. It's going to keep changing and things like that. So basically, there are two ways as mentioned. First way was to make lawful, unlawful, and unlawful, lawful. They change about the months. The other one is to add a month so that the Hajj season appears, is on a certain season. Hajj time is on a certain season. But it defeated the very object of the divine law, which prescribed the lunar calendar instead of the solar calendar for the observance of obligatory duties. So, right, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has prescribed the lunar calendar for our religious observances, right, and not the solar calendar. So to want to follow the solar calendar by tweaking the lunar calendar is a great disobedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, a great kufur. Allah did this Allah did this to ensure many good things for the Muslims. One of which is that his servants should be so trained as to obey his commandments at all times of the year under all circumstances mentioned just now. For instance, the month of Ramadan circulates among all the seasons of the year, and the Muslims get used to obeying his commandments, whether it be summer or winter, dry or rainy season. This gives them excellent moral training, which is the real object of all the obligatory duties imposed by the divine law. It's about training people, it's about strengthening them, it's about obedience no matter what, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Likewise, the days of Hajj according to the lunar calendar fall during the different seasons. Therefore, the slaves of Allah have to travel during all the seasons, favorable and unfavorable. Thus, they come out successful in the divine test under all the circumstances and learn to be steadfast in their obedience. So that is the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. These people, they learn, they are prepared, they know what to bring, they know how to manage those seasons, and they are not tweaking the calendar to make a Hajj on a particular month. It is obvious that such a training will stand them in good stead in many other fields in which one has to fight the battle of the truth. Yeah? Because we are trained to work in various months. So when it comes to fighting, we are all ready to fight in any month. Now, it would have become quite clear why Nasi was made unlawful and forbidden. It was designed to fix the season of Hajj in order to suit their own conveniences, though it defeated the divine purpose of Hajj and of the forbidden months. It meant that rebel against Allah and become independent of Him. This is what we call kufur. Besides this, Islam is a universal religion for all and for all human beings. It is obvious that the periods of fasting and performing Hajj cannot satisfy all if they be fixed in accordance with the months of the solar year. So if it's for the Arabs only, let's say they want Ramadan to be, or Hajj to be in March only, then because Islam is for all, and so it should be good for all. So the change would be good for all, because different areas of the world, right, have different seasons, and so the change actually helped them to go through Ramadan in different circumstances. But if they are performed in fixed months according to the solar year, the one and the same month will not equally suit all, for the simple reason that it will fall during the same seasons in different places, summer or winter, or very hot or very cold, or rainy or dry, or harvesting or sowing year after year. So it's not good, because then you don't have opportunity to move. If it's always in winter in the north, then it will be in summer for the south. So it's not fair in that sense. In this connection, it may also be kept in view that the proclamation about the prohibition of Nasi was made on the occasion of Hajj in 9 after Hijrah, and next year the Hajj was performed on right dates which were in accordance with the lunar year. So you can see how Allah has planned it, so much so that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam would do his pilgrimage, his farewell pilgrimage, on the exact day of Zulhijjah, despite the various manipulations made by the Arabs, pagan Arabs at that time. Since that time, Hajj is being performed according to exact dates. Mujahid, an authoritative commentator of the Quran, says that a man from the tribe of Kinana used to come every year to the pilgrimage riding his donkey and say, "I'm not one who may be criticized or return with failure." So he doesn't like to be criticized and he doesn't like to fail. "No one may reject what I say. We have made Al-Muharram sacred and let Safa come later." So Safa is supposed to come before Safa comes later. So they have made Muharram sacred and let Safa come later. The following year, he would come again and say, we have made Safar sacred and let Muharram come later. So changes about. So that's what they do, right? And that is how they do things. This is a reference in Allah's statement to them making up the number of months has sanctified, which are 4. So they keep it to the 4, but they change the months that are sacred to the months that are not sacred. When they delay a sacred month, they actually made lawful what Allah has forbidden. Abdul Rahman ibn Zayd ibn Aslam, another leading commentator on the Quran, mentions that this was done in pre-Islamic days by a man from the tribe of Kinana called Al-Qulumus. In those days, the Arabs would stop fighting or launching raids on one another in the sacred month. A man would meet his father's killer and he would not lift a hand to harm him because it's a sacred month. One day, this man gave orders to set out for a raid. When he was told that it was the month of Muharram, he said, we will delay it this year. So that means Muharram can come later. We will change the Muharram to another month and we make 2 Safars maybe this year. So Safar is not a haram month, so we can fight. So there were 2 Safars months this year. That's how they do it. Eh? So next year we will compensate for this by making 2 Muharrams. So that's how they actually change about. Indeed, the following year he told them not to launch any raid in Safar so that it too was made sacred. So these are 2 interpretations of the verse and 2 versions of postponement. The first version, Safar is made sacred in place of Muharram to make the sacred months 4 in number, but not the ones which Allah has specified, since Al-Muharram is made unsacred. The second version, 3 months are made sacred 1 year and 5 the next year to make up 8 with an average of 4 a year. All right. So this means in effect that the sanctity of Muharram is lost 1 year and Safar is made sacred in another. Both actions represent a violation of Allah's law, making lawful what He has forbidden. Both are, as Allah says, an excess of disbelief, right? And it was a ziyadah, increase in disbelief, because they involve an assumption of the authority to legislate, which is an act of unbelief, and that is added to the actual rejection of the truth. So they, because of the disbelief in the laws of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they have manipulated the months of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they continue to reject what Allah has taught them. All right. Zuyina lahum su'u a'malihim. So zuyina, we know it is fi'il madi and it is in its passive state. Because it's passive, right? It actually refers to the su'u a'mal. So su'u a'mal is actually an object, but we call it naib. We call it naib fa'il because in this particular, when you use a passive form, there is no subject in the passive form. So because there is no subject in the passive form, the object takes up a rafa state. Lahum is brought forward to emphasize that it is for them. So they, as mentioned, the changing of the months, they consider it as good, it's beneficial, there's a good purpose in it, so it's fine. So Allah says that these are made to look good for them. Made to look good. They make it look good for themselves. So they actually deceive themselves with their ploys and tricks. They see as fair what is evil, and they think deviation from the truth to be a virtue. They are totally unaware of how far astray they had gone and to what depths of unbelief they have sunk. They used to say that a long peaceful time between 2 wars decreased the war skillfulness. They should light a fire of war. So as mentioned, 3 months no war, Zulqa'dah, Zulhijjah, and Muharram. After that, there's a lapse of a few months. We have after Muharram, we have Safar, right? We have Rabiul Awwal, Rabiul Akhir, Jabil Awwal, Jabil. So 5 months. Then you have Haram months, right? So they felt that 3 months is too long not to go to war. So you become less skillful because you are not, you lose out in training for the war. So they changed Muharram to Safar and Safar to Muharram. Safar become halal, Haram because Muharram become halal and such things. Wallahu la yahdil qawm al-kafirin. Allah reminds us that Allah does not guide. He will not guide those who are disbelievers, who fought against the teachings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who has got no gratitude to the teachings of Allah, instead manipulate the teachings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They place a shield between their hearts and divine guidance. Allah will not guide them. That means they will not see the truth. Hence, Allah abandons them to the disbelief in which they live in total darkness, far removed from Allah's guidance. All right, so that is Allah. Allahu la yahdi. So when Allah says Allah will not guide them, then they are lost. They are doomed. All right, let's recite. Inna iddata shuhuri indallahi na ashara shahran fi kitabillah. Yawma khalaqas samawati wal ard. Minha arba'atun hurumun zalika dinul qayyim. Fala tadlimu fihinna anfusakum. وقاتلوا المشركين كافة كما يقاتلونكم كافة واعلموا أن الله مع المتقين إنما النسيء زيادة في الكفر يضل به الذين كفروا يهلوا يضل به الذين كفروا يهلونه عاما ويحرمونه عاما ليواطئوا عدة ما حرم الله فيهلوا ما حرم الله زين لهم سوء الأعمال زين لهم سوء أعمالهم والله لا يهدي القوم الكافرين. Alright, so that's about the months, sacred months. So we go on to the next set of words. Thaqaltum. Thaqaltum means it's a fi'l madi. You can see because there's a tum there, definitely is madi. And it's past tense, so you clung strongly. Cling, opposite, plural, sorry. Past tense is clung. You clung strongly. And aradan is again. Aradan, again. This is not substate, we can see that. يا أيها الذين آمنوا ما لكم إذا قيل لكم انفروا في سبيل الله يا أيها oh الذين آمنوا those who believed الذين those آمنوا في الماضي past tense plural واو alif there at the end, so referring to the those who believed ما لكم, what's with you, okay. Right, what's with you is an English way of saying, so what's the matter with you? Right, what's with you? Ma lakum idha qila lakum, when is said. Qila is the word is said. Idha, when qila, we get used to this word and meaning of this word qila. It is said in Surah Yasin, we have got this a few times. Lakum, to you. Infiru is an instruction for al-amr, go forth. Infiru, nafara is the root word. Infiru fi sabilillah, in the path of Allah. Fi in sabil is path, Allah is Allah, that's in the path of Allah. So fi is huruf jar, so sabili, the jar sin Allah is jar sin because of the mudaf ilayhi structure. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu ma lakum idha qila lakum infiru fi sabilillah. Thaqaltum, you clung strongly ilal ard, to the earth. Araditum, mamdu rida, right? Raditum, is a question. You pleased? Raditum, okay, so we know this is a fi'l madi, because once you say tum, you know it's fi'l madi, and it's past tense, right? Madi is always past tense. Raditum, are you pleased? Bil hayati dunya, with the worldly life. You see B is with, and this is, can you see the hayah? T is in this jar sit, but dunya is not. That is in this jar sit, but it's fixed on that structure, so it doesn't change into a kasrah, right? Both of them supposed to be is a sifa wal mausuf, supposed to be in the same structure, but dunya is in jar but not seen. Bil hayati dunya, haya is life, not life of the world, because this is not an off structure because al-haya, haya has got an al there. So if it's an off structure, there will not be an al at the beginning, all right? So bil hayati dunya, with the worldly life, all right? Minal akhirah, then the akhirah, the hereafter. Minal is then akhirah, the hereafter. Fama mata'ul hayati dunya, fama, fa is then, ma is not. Mata is the enjoyment of the worldly life, hayati dunya. All right, again, mata'ul hayati dunya. Hayati is in jar state, but dunya also not shown to be jar state there. All right. Fil akhirah, in the akhirah. Illa, but or except qalil, a little. Saqaltum ila al-ardi, arditum bil hayati dunya min al-akhirah. فما متاع الحياة الدنيا في الآخرة إلا قليل. Allah calls on the believers, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, O you who believe, ma lakum, what's the matter with you? Ma lakum, what's with you? Either when qila lakum, you are called, right? You are called for you, it is said to you, sorry, infiru, go forth in the path of Allah. Thaqaltum, you clung to the earth. Ilal ard. Thaqaltum ilal ard, you clung to the earth. It means when you were called to go into the path of Allah, what's the matter with you that when you were called to go to the path of Allah, you clung to the earth? What does that mean? The passage begins the word of reproach and a warning against the reluctance to join the campaign of jihad or struggle for Allah's cause. Such reluctance to march forth in support of Allah's cause is only motivated by worldly considerations and ambitions. People who doesn't want to go in the path of Allah, to fight in the path of Allah, they are usually people who are affected, who are involved, who live life for the world. People may fear for their lives and their property. So that's the world, right? If you fear for your life, then that's you are attached to the world. And you fear that if you die, you will lose a lot of things. But you don't really, that's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned in the surah, that even if you are in a fort, you're going to die, you're going to die. So why afraid to go forward to fight in the path of Allah? And of course, their property also fear that they might be taken away if they die. They are keen to protect their interests and preserve their pleasures, and prefer a settled life of ease and comfort. So that is why when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordained fighting, there were a lot of reluctance, right? Because of fear of death, fear of losing what they cherish most of in their lives. And Allah says that you might not like something, but it's good for you, but you might hate something, but you might like something, but it is bad for you. And you might hate something, but it's good for you. So Allah reminds people that we are not the one who actually know everything. Allah is all knower. We might think it's good for us, but actually it's bad. We might think it's bad for us, but actually it's good. So this is basically encouraging them to move on to fight, because telling them that fighting is good for them. All right, so these are the people who are clung to the earth. They think primarily of their present life, immediate objectives, close relatives, and physical needs. The word chosen here gives a vivid description of clinging heavily to the earth. It is as if you are looking at a heavy object that has been in its position for a long time. It is lifted up by a group of people, but it soon falls down with a strong gravitational pull. It shows that image that you are just stuck to the earth, you cannot get out. That is why you cannot go and follow the people in their jihad. It has been narrated by Ibn Abbas as well as some others that this verse and the verse after it had been sent down about the Battle of Tabuk. Some Islamic narrations indicate that the Prophet ﷺ usually did not make manifest the war decisions and his final aims concerning them for Muslims before the beginning of war, in order that the Islamic martial secrets would not be handed to the enemy. What does that mean? All right, it is the habit of the Prophet ﷺ not to inform the masses concerning his decision to go to war. All right, he doesn't make it clear to all where he's going and why he's doing it and what is his objective for doing this. But this time around, he actually informed people. So why did he do that? Let's continue the story. But the situation was different about the Battle of Tabuk, where in advance he announced clearly that they were going to fight against the Romans. So here, very different from his usual style, he actually announced the Battle of Tabuk and that they are going to fight the Romans. That fight against the Emperor of Eastern Byzantine, of course, was not a simple matter, and Muslims should be completely prepared for that great war. Right? The Byzantine Empire is very powerful, the Roman Empire is very powerful, and so the Muslims need to be really prepared to go to war. In addition to that, the distance in Medina and the country of the Romans was very long, and all things apart, it was summer, the hot season, and the time of harvest of both corns and fruits. So these are the situation at the point of time Rasulullah called people to come over to do their, to jihad and fight against the Romans. First, it's very far. Second, it's really hot with the summer. And third, they are waiting for their harvest. I mean, these are people of Medina. They have many gardens to harvest. All these affairs with together made the problem of going towards the battlefield extraordinarily difficult for the Muslims, so much so that some of them showed hesitation in accepting the Prophet's invitation. So believers, that's why Allah called them, oh, you who believe, because they were believers, and those who, not the hypocrites, but the hypocrites also are among the believers because they maintain the fact that they are believers, and that is one of the reasons why Rasulullah does not announce his expeditions, because among the believers, so-called believers, are hypocrites who act as spies for the Jews and the Christians, and of course, and the Jews and the Christians are the Romans are Christians. The Tabuk expedition had to be undertaken in response to the hostile behavior of the Roman Empire towards the mission of the Prophet ﷺ and the Muslims. So that is the reason why Tabuk occurred. It became an issue to be dealt with urgently because of the following two incidents of criminal murder of the Muslim missionaries and diplomats by the associates of the empire. So it was the expedition to attack the Romans was urgently needed. Why? Utilizing the environment of peace created by the Hudaybiyah Treaty, Rasulullah ﷺ had sent various missionary groups to peacefully preach the deen of Allah in different parts of Arabia. So that's what happened after the signing of the Hudaybiyah Treaty. There'll be no fight, there'll be no wars. Rasulullah ﷺ sent envoys and missionary groups, right, to preach the deen of Allah in different parts of Arabia. So he tried the soft approach, not to fight them, right? If they accept Islam, then it'll be good for them, then they will not be attacked. But if they don't accept Islam, they have to be attacked. One such mission, consisting of 16 missionaries, was sent to the Arab Christians politically attached to the Roman Empire. The Christians killed all of the Muslim missionaries except for the leader of the mission, Ka'ab bin Umar Ghifari, who was able to escape during the massacre. Also during that period, Rasulullah sent an emissary to the Christian governor of Basra, Shurahbil ibn Amr, with a letter inviting him towards Islam, as he had sent emissaries to all the heads of various territories throughout Arabia and states around Arabia. So he's not the only one. That's what I'm saying here, that Rasulullah has sent lots of letters to the various territories throughout Arabia. The governor killed the Prophet's emissary. This is against international law. Both of these incidents necessitated action against this hostile behavior. It was totally in violation of the international conventions. Right, so the Muslims had to do something because it is a violation of their rights. And if they don't do that, if they don't attack, then if they don't counterattack, then they will be seen as weak. You must remember that in the times of that, during the Prophet's time, fighting is a sign of bravery. And to allow people to take advantage of you and abuse you would be a sign of weakness. Thus, after Hijrah, Rasulullah sent an army of 3,000 Muslims to hold the criminal perpetrators accountable for their crimes and to ensure the future safety of the citizens of the Islamic territory. So that's why he sat down, right, to make them realize that they have done something terrible, and also to protect the safety of the citizens of those territories. When the Muslim army reached a place called Ma'an, they found out that Shurahbil ibn Amr himself was marching ahead to confront them with an army of 100,000. They were what? 3,000 only fighters, while Caesar had dispatched another army of the same size under the command of his brother Theodore to provide support to the army of Shurahbil ibn Amr. So there's about 200,000 fighters. Muslims had 3,000 only. All right. The Muslim army encountered the army of Shurahbil ibn Amr. It was 33 times larger than their own at a place called Mu'tah. Fought at Mu'tah, right? There were 200,000 of the army against 3,000. After a fierce battle, the Muslim was able to retreat against all odds without being clearly defeated or routed. So that's the reality of the Muslim army. They fought and fought, right? Many would have died, but they were not defeated. This bravery of the Muslims left a very positive impact on the Arabian tribes of the area, and many of them accepted Islam. This is quite a big feat, right, for 3,000 people to be, to be left, was able to fight 200,000 people. Then another incident occurred. The commander of Rome's Arabian armies, Farwah ibn Amir al-Juzami, accepted Islam. So this commander of the Roman. Caesar ordered him arrested and brought to his court. He offered Amr two options: renounce Islam and be restored to the post of or remain Muslim and be killed. He chose to keep his faith and was killed for his belief in Islam and his decision to remain Muslim, even at the risk of losing his life. So he doesn't mind losing his life. He has strong belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He believes that Islam is a true religion. And just like, the magicians of the time of Fir'aun, when they saw what Nabi Musa did, they knew it was not magic. Because they were magicians and they got lots of knowledge about magic. They knew that it was not magic, and that is why they fell prostrate. Right? Even when Fir'aun threatened to kill them, to crucify them, they don't care, because they have the religion with them. So likewise, this one also, right? He chose to keep his faith and was killed for his disbelief in Islam, for his belief in Islam and his decision to remain Muslim even at the risk of losing his life. So Caesar also started a recruitment campaign to expand his armies in preparation to attack the fledgling Islamic country for an all-out war. So that's what Caesar was doing. When some found out about his preparations, he realized that another do-or-die stage in the life of the mission had arrived. So he got to move fast. If Caesar was not bravely confronted right away, it would mean the end of the Islamic State. So if they don't fight Caesar, then Islam will lose. Even before Caesar attacked it for his nefarious plans, the other forces in Arabia who were still trying to find a way to stem the tide of Islam would be emboldened to rise up against Medina. Right, so it's very important that the Muslims go to war, go to fight the Caesar, because the Bedouins around who have not accepted Islam, right, would not. They would actually. They would become brave enough if the Muslims didn't attack the Christians and the Romans. That's why Rasulullah decided not only to confront the enemy, but to confront it right at the border of the Roman Empire. He openly announced the Muslims to prepare for the expedition and made it clearly known that every able-bodied Muslim must join the expedition. So yes, everyone must join the expedition. This announcement became a litmus test for the faith of the Muslims, because the faith demanded listening to the call of Allah, Rasulullah Sallallahu, while the ground realities made this decision very challenging for the following reasons. It was the height of summer, hot summer, making travel long and arduous, so it was really hot. Date crops were just about ready for harvesting. They can't leave their hard work. There was severe lack of money and other resources to finance the war or to acquire arms, provisions, and camels for transportation. So as we saw, there's not enough money, so food and camels and things are not enough. It was not going to be an ordinary battle. It was with the stronger of the two global superpowers at that time. So they're going to fight a very strong power. Despite all these factors, sensible people knew that it was the last critical point to determine if the Islamic movement was to survive and spread or die within its own territory. So people, there are those, right, who realize that this is necessary for Islam. So the sincere believers started their preparations to march, even if they had to lose all their possessions and their lives in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. All right. So it seems that there were a number who actually respond to the call, despite the various challenges that they had with the temperature at that time. So there were some not Christians also among them. Only the hypocrites who loved this world more than the hereafter were reluctant and wanted to find a way out. Previously, the hypocrites could hide their lack of commitment to Islam through various excuses. But not accompanying the Prophet in this separation was a clear sign of hypocrisy for any able-bodied person in Medina who claimed to be a Muslim. All right, so they used the hypocrites used to try to avoid going to war, right, by giving all kinds of excuses. But this time around, it was not easy for them because almost everybody was out there to go to fight. To finance the war, the sincere Muslims donated everything they could. Abu Bakr donated everything he owned, not leaving any assets for his family, himself or his family. Umar donated 50% of whatever he owned. Those who had nothing to donate worked as laborers and donated all their earnings. That's how they work. They help us financially. And many Muslims come forward to even give donations. Sincere Muslims from all over the Islamic territory arrive at the Medina enthusiastically offering themselves in the way of Allah. Those who could not be armed for the lack of resources would cry at their inability to serve in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Those who could join would thank Allah for the blessed apportionment. All sincere Muslims of Medina joined the army except for 10 of them who lazily stayed behind. All hypocrites stayed behind except a few who were sent to spy and to keep their gang in Medina informed of the various developments as well as to assassinate Rasulullah on a vulnerable opportunity such as the defeat of Muslims, which they were expecting. So among those troops, there were a few hypocrites who was waiting for a chance to pounce to assassinate Rasulullah. The Prophet departed Medina in Rajab 9 after Hijrah with a 30,000 strong army, which included cavalry of 10,000. Rajab. Maybe he expected to walk by the time they reached the area, the war zone, that it might have been no more. Rajab, which is a haram month, might be our Sha'ban. However, they did not have enough camels to ride. People had to take turns riding on the camels. Several persons located to one camel, which meant that the army could move only at walking speed in the intensely hot weather. Right, so that was the state. Army was there, but not enough camels. Most of people walk, and they do share their camels. Naturally, traveling through an arid desert, the availability of drinking water for 30,000 persons was not as another huge problem. However, despite the difficulties and challenges, the army reached Tabuk, the frontier of the Roman Empire. There's a problem of water, problem of lots of things. But they managed to reach Tabuk. Before the Muslim army arrived at Tabuk, it's north of Medina, near Jordan. Arrived at Tabuk, Caesar withdrew his army from the frontier and decided not to confront the Muslims because the Prophet had maneuvered him by coming out to encounter him before he had completed his preparations to attack. And the reason is that they were preparing, Romans were preparing to attack, but the Muslims have come up and marched against them, and that was very worrying for them. You know, why would they? Your uncles When the Muslim army arrived at Tabuk, Caesar withdrew his army from the frontier and decided not to confront the Muslims because the Prophet maneuvered him by coming out to encounter him before he had completed his preparation for that. So the Romans were planning to attack, but Rasulullah SAW attacked first before they can prepare enough for the attack. So they were not prepared actually for the fight. In addition, Caesar realized that the odds of his army winning against a 30,000 Muslim army led by the Prophet ﷺ himself were non-existent, considering that his 100,000 strong army could not score a clear win against a meager army of 3,000 Muslims not led by the Prophet ﷺ himself. So all these are considerations of the fight that is to happen. And Caesar also thought about it, and he realized that that there are dangers, right, at night with the In addition, Caesar realized that the odds of his army winning against a 30,000 Muslim army led by Rasulullah were non-existent. He was yet experienced with another war in which just a few thousand strong army could not, his army of a few 100,000 could not defeat 3,000 Muslims. Right? So he realized that not this time around. You see, they couldn't even defeat a 3,000 army. Now they want to try to defeat a 30,000 Muslim army, which is led by Rasulullah. They feel they never ever win. But in the end, it was one of the ways of Allah Subhanahu wa Taala used to help His Messenger. All right. Instead of entering the Roman territory, Rasulullah camped at Tabuk for 20 days. He used this opportunity to enter into the treaties of allegiance with the Christian Arab tribes settled in that area. So he just came and there are a few Arabs around him, and so he passed Islam to them. These treaties extended the frontier of the Islamic territory to the borders of the Roman Empire. Araditum bil hayati dunya min al akhirah. Are you pleased with the life of the world, the worldly life, than the akhirah? This question identifies the root cause of the ignoring the call of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Whenever a person is unwilling to sacrifice his worldly interests for the needs of the Islamic movement and the objectives of the deen, it is a clear indication that success in worldly matters to that person is more important than success in the hereafter. So the question comes, are you pleased with the life of this world than the akhirah? So a person should start thinking, because before this, Allah has said that the second, Rasulullah has said that all right, so those who sacrifice for the world, sacrifice the world for the next world, they are wise people. This only happens when people do not properly understand or they forget that the comforts and hardships of this world are temporary. Everything is left behind at the time of death. So we just tend to forget, right? This will happen when they leave Islam. That they forget that they will die and all that they are enjoying would be left. Joining a jihad campaign for Allah's cause represents freedom from the shackles of this earthly life and physical pleasures. So to join, to fight in the path of Allah represents freedom from the shackles of this earth. That means you are not bound by the earth. You don't cling to the earth, right? And you understand the reality of fighting in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It emphasizes the yearning for freedom after the shedding of narrow needs and the expanse of eternity after getting rid of this limited worldly life. So we can see that emphasizes the yearning to be free to obey Allah after the shedding of a narrow needs shed. These are the small needs that we use for this world. and the expense of eternity after getting rid of this limited world life. So we are concerned, these are the wise ones who are concerned for the next world, live life for the next world. Right? Live life in this world, but not extravagant, not obsessed with the world. فَمَا مَتَاعُ الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا فِي الْآخِرَةِ إِلَّا قَلِيلٌ. Then not the provision of the worldly life in the earth except a small amount. This may imply two things, two meanings. First, when you will find that the life in the hereafter is eternal and see that the good things and the provisions of enjoyment are countless, you will realize that the potential and the actual enjoyments of the temporary life of this world were nothing as compared with the blessings of their great kingdom. So Allah is telling us the enjoyment of the worldly life, right? In the akhirah is nothing. It's very little compared to the akhirah. So whatever you can enjoy in this world, big houses or big cars and lots of food, entertainment after entertainment, is nothing compared to the next one. At that time, you will regret why you deprive yourself of this everlasting happiness and bliss for the sake of the very little sought living enjoyments of the mortal world of life of this world. So that's what it is. Right? Why choose something that is temporary when you can have something that is permanent? That's what it is. And he's saying that the provisions or the enjoyments of this world is nothing. Qalil means very little. It's very little. Second, the goods of this worldly life are of no value in the hereafter, however abundant they might be. You shall have to give up each and everything as soon as you breathe your last, or nothing of this world can go with you to the next world. Of course, you will get credit for what you sacrifice for the pleasure and love of Allah and love of Rasulullah. And those who are aware that nothing from this world can go with you, you would want to give them away. Imam Ahmad recorded that Al-Mustawrid, a member of Bani Fihr, said that Rasulullah SAW said, "Mad dunya fil akhirati illa kama yaj'alu ahadukum isba'ahu hadhihi fil yam." All right. Falyanzur bima tarji'u. The life of this world compared to the hereafter is just like when one of you dips his fingers in the sea, let him contemplate how much of his finger could carry. So compared to the big sea, right, which represents the eternal world, right, this earthly world is just like that drop of water that you get from your finger. Look at it, look at how much water is there on your finger. This is what the life is, nothing compared to the everlasting life of the next one. Prophet ﷺ pointed with his index finger. Muslim collected this hadith. No one who believes in Allah would hesitate to set out to fight for Allah's cause unless there is some weakness in his faith. So the only reason that people do not want to fight in the path of Allah is because of the weakness in their faith. Rasulullah ﷺ says, a person who dies without having ever joined an expedition fighting for Allah's cause or having thought about joining such an expedition must surely have a characteristic of hypocrisy. But this is only applicable during times of war between Islam and non-Muslims, right? But nowadays we do not have that kind of jihad call because we don't have true Islamic states, right? At the point in time. Hypocrisy, which is essentially a weakness of faith, is a characteristic which holds a person who claims to believe in Allah from joining a fight for Allah's cause because he fears death or poverty when life and death are determined by Allah and all provisions and wealth are granted by Him. So that's what it is, right? People with strong faith will know that everything comes from Allah. They have no worries. And they will, whatever they have will be lost when they die. Will go to others when they die. Because all the comforts and pleasures of this world are petty and meaningless when compared with what is in store for the believers in the life to come. So as mentioned, whatever we have in this world is qalil, hardly anything compared to the next world. As mentioned by Rasulullah, it's just like the water that you get is what you have compared to the big ocean. Abdul Aziz bin Abi Hazim narrated that his father said, when Abdul Aziz bin Marwan was dying, he said, behind the shroud, I will be covered with so that I inspect. Bring the shroud, I will be covered with so that I inspect him. So before he died, he asked for the shroud, right? So that he can look at it. When it was placed before him, he looked at it and said, is this what I end up with from all this life? From this life? Is that what I have after all the things that I worked for? I'm only left with this white cloth. He then turned his back and cried, all saying, woe to you, O life, your abundance is truly little. Your little is short-lived. We were deceived by you. So that's the reality of the world. إلا تنفروا يعذبكم عذابا أليما ويستبدل قوما غيركم إلا is not إلا. This one is not إلا except. It's if not. In and la. In is if, la is not. So if not, tamfiru, you march forth. The word nafara is that the ta is, of course, the prefix, the waw alif is you all march forth. If not, you march forth. You adhibukum, he punishes you. You adhibkum. You adhibkum. Kum is you all. This is adhab. You adhibkum. This is the jasam state. Adhaban alima, a painful doom, a painful punishment. Wayastabdil, and he substitute. Badala is to substitute. He substitute. We say badal haji, substitute your hajj with someone else. Qawman, a people, ghayrakum, other than ghayrakum. Illa tamfiru yu'adhibkum adhaban aliman wa yastabdil qawman ghayrakum. Wala tadurruhu, and not you harm him. Tadurruhu, shay'an, a thing. Wallahu, and Allah, ala kulli shay'in qadir, on every single thing is powerful. All right. So if you march not forth, he will punish you with a painful torment and will replace you by another people, and you cannot harm him at all. And Allah is able to do all things. Allah says, illa tamfiru, right? Tamfiru, if you march off. If you do not march, illa, if not, you march or you go forth, and you will be punished. Yu'azibkum adhaban alima. You'll be punished with a terrible, terrible, terrible punishment, or a very painful punishment. The dress is made to certain people at a certain period of time, but its import applies to all those who believe in Allah. So, of course, this one refers to those people who didn't want to continue with the jihad, right? And they were told, if they don't go for a jihad, then they will have to be punished. Punishment with which they are threatened is not limited to the life to come, but it also includes a punishment in the life, in this life. And as punishment, you are punished, like punished for punish. Like for example, Fir'aun, right? Fir'aun was drowned, but it doesn't stop there. Allah said in the Quran that he will be punished in the next world. So, because whatever they do is, you can't punish them completely for the things that they have done in disobedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For example, a person who steals so many times can only cut his hand once, not so many times also. All right, so they will suffer the humiliation which afflicts all those who refrain from fighting for Allah's cause when their enemies have power over them. Right, so yeah, so this is about the fighting again, because these people don't want to work to fight in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then they will not only be punished by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but be punished by the conquerors at that time. They are also deprived of the enjoyments and comforts of this life, which will be taken up by their enemies. These are people who are against fighting for Allah. Whatever they cherish will be taken from them. In addition, their loss of life and property is far greater than what they will lose when they fight in support of Allah's cause. So they thought they would lose a lot of money by spending money in the path of Allah, but actually it's well spent, and they will go to Jannah for what they have done. But they're not aware of it. Some of them, the weaker ones, they are the weaker ones, they are afraid of losing their life and property. Whenever a community abandons jihad and refuses to fight for Allah's cause, it is bound to suffer humiliation. Its eventual loss is much greater than it would need to sacrifice when it fights with the spirit of jihad. So they thought they don't want to spend on jihad, but actually if they spend, it'd be better for them because they will eventually lose a lot from what they don't want to spend. Now, Abbas said, Allah's messenger Rasulullah called some Arabs to mobilize, but they lagged behind and Allah withheld rain from coming down on them, and this was their torment. So that is a kind of punishment in Allah sent for not wanting to go jihad with Rasulullah. وَيَسْتَبْدِلْ قَوْمًا غَيْرَكُمْ, and he will change a people other than you. They will guard their faith and will be prepared to make the necessary sacrifices without even submitting to Allah's enemies. So this is Allah saying that if you are not willing to fight in the path of Allah, then Allah will get somebody else. No problem for Allah. Allah's work does not depend on you and will be accomplished only if you do. It is Allah's grace and bounty that He is affording you the golden opportunity of serving the cause of His way. Therefore, if you miss this opportunity because of any foolish assumption, Allah will raise another people and bestow on them the opportunity and the capability of doing this work, and you will be losers. So Allah will always find some people to do His work for Him. These people will be a group of persons who are different from them from any point of view. They will be different from them not only from the viewpoint of personality, but also from the viewpoints of faith, decision, courage, and obedience. So they are strong faith people, which Allah will bring right in place of those cowardly ones. وَلَا تَضُرُّهُ شَيْئًا. They cannot harm him in any way. They cannot harm Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They don't come and they don't want to fight, then it's up to you. You lose. You will be punished, right? But you will not harm Allah in any way. They cannot harm anything unto Allah and His pure revelation. They cannot do anything if Allah doesn't allow. Wallahu ala kulli shay'in qadir, and Allah, He is on everything all powerful. Able, qadir can be able, powerful. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is powerful over everything, and whenever He will open a triumph, He will, upon the triumph of His pure religion, no doubt it will happen. So if Allah wants to be, no matter how many, as mentioned in the Quran, Allah says one patient person is like can fight 100 disbelievers. It depends on the strength of faith. And these people have got very strong faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Those who went out to fight with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. 30,000 of them. Allah is able to do all things. There is no worries about Allah being able to do everything. He's able to destroy the enemies without your help, right? He can, as mentioned, as we have seen in Surah in Battle of Badr, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent angels down to fight with the Muslims, right? Because they are very ill-equipped in the fight. But Qadir here, capable, the powerful. The all-capable, the most able, the all-powerful. The one who has complete and perfect power and ability by which He brought everything into existence and by which arranges all affairs. That's the Qadir of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Complete and perfect power. And the ability also to bring everything into existence by which arranges all affairs. The omnipotent, the strong ones, the all-powerful, the master of all things. The one who, when he will a thing to be, He merely says be, and so that is power of Qadir. He is Qadir comes from Qadir also. Qadir is that the one who is able to. He is able to create anything He wants to. Right? When He says be, and it is that you say innama amruhu, and in only that His affair. And amruhu idha arada shay'an, when He wishes a thing, ayyaqula lahu, that He says to it, kun be, fayakun, and it be. So every created being's capabilities are based entirely upon whatever strength and ability Allah gives to it. Right? So everybody has their strength, but Allah is the ultimate strength. Allah can do whatever He wants to do. He can cause hundreds and thousands of enemies to lose. And it is said that Rasulullah's speciality about Rasulullah is that the people whom He wants to attack, right, they will have fear in them 1 month before the attack for Rasulullah. That means it's quite easy for Rasulullah to defeat them because they are in a state of fear. Muqtadir is an intensive form of the word qadar, which emphasizes the supreme power to enforce or enact whatever divine wisdom decides. Being omnipotent, having the ability to do anything. So it's a stronger form which emphasizes the supreme power to enforce or enact. Previously, what do you have? So we have about power. Qadir. That's not what's qadir. Now it's qadir. It's a less intensive form which describes the attribute of being able to decree, ordain, appoint, measure out, decide. These both involve power in the sense of power being the intention by which something comes into being according to a certain measure and a certain willful decree, as in saying kun, fayakun, be and it is. Related names, Qawi, the one who is almighty and possess inexhaustible strength. Mateen, the one whose nature is to be firm, determined, and steadfast. All right, we'll stop here. Allahumma arhamna bil Quran waj'alhu lana imaman wa nuran wa hudan wa rahmah. Allahumma zakkina minhu ma nasina wa 'allimna minhu ma jahilna warzuqna tilawatahu آناء الليل وأطراف النهار واجعله لنا حجة يا رب العالمين. اللهم استودعك ما علمتني فردده إلي وقت حاجتي إليه فلا تنسينيه يا رب العالمين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. ربنا انفعنا بما علمتنا ربي علمنا الذي ينفعنا ربي فقهنا وفقه أهلنا وقرابات لنا في ديننا مع أهل القتر أنثى وذكر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. الحمد لله. الحمد